Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, everybody. My name is Nguyen, and welcome to my senior project out of this world. My senior project focuses on the study of space, including astronomy, cosmology, space exploration, all that kind of good stuff, and give people the chance to question and just try to find the answer, a lot of answers for them. Um, My theme verse is Isaiah 40:26. Lift up your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these? He who brings out the starry hosts one by one and calls forth each of them by name. We ask questions. We all have questions about stuff that we just don't know about. And then hopefully throughout this project, if God is there, He will provide the answer. Little rundown to this is my original bubbles and a little slightly revised version of it with a little additional. These are a summary of the bubbles, including 5 parts: research, essay, engaging with grade prep student, which was education, fake news debate, and personal application. For my books, the first book I read was The Hubble's Universe, which was a perfect book for just a beginner in this space topic. It includes basic ideas of how space works, and it just have incredible photos from the Hubble telescope. The second book I finished was Life of the Stars, which focused on the possibility of extraterrestrial life, alien equation, and how humans have been trying to learn and try to understand this topic. The third book is The Creator and the Cosmos. This book have a Christian viewpoint that try to connect newest scientific discovery to the Bible. With my interview, I thought when I came into this project, I thought this would be the hardest part of my project, but it's actually one of the best part and one of the most enjoyable one. The first interview was with James Logan, which second person I interview is Mike Miller, which is also a NASA aerospace engineer. The third person is Gerald Schroeder, which he was an Orthodox Jewish, and he teach in Israel. Chris Hadfield, which kind of like a famous Canadian astronaut who posted a lot of video. He is a retired Canadian astronaut. David Spergel is a Princeton University astrophysicist. Daniel Ray, who wrote a book called The Study of Cosmos and later become my mentor, and Nguyen Spencer, who co-authored with Daniel Ray on the study of the cosmos. Documentaries. I watched 6 documentaries. Into the Universe with Stephen Hawking, 3 episodes. Stephen Hawking Grand Design, one episode. Before the Big Bang, episode 5, 6, and 7. Edge of the Universe, 3 episodes. The Stars of Bethlehem, and The Track Nation. And movies, I watched 3 movies: Apollo 13, The Martian, and Apollo 11. Online research, which I watched some TED Talks and read some article, and I use some of these video and TED Talk and article for my classes. On December 6th, I led a group of 7 people and went to the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia for a planetarium field trip. So this is the form that the flyers I sent out to make sure everyone have their parents' permission. The show included there's 2 shows: The Sky Tonight, which focus a lot on astrology and astronomy, how the sky actually looks actually more interesting than how it looks, and Asteroid Mission Extreme, which is talked about the potential human mission with asteroid. These are the photos from the trip. Unfortunately, I cannot take pictures inside the show because it's dark and they just wouldn't let you. And then outside the show, there was a lot of physics experiments and just fun activity outside that you can also do in the museum. Afterwards, I give each of them a short survey form from the who people who went on the trip to just check what they learned, what stories they learned, and some bigger question like how is this possible? Is the asteroid mission possible? And it's just to check with them stargazing night. So this is one of the toughest part of my project. I have to delay this a lot due to the weather in State College for a long time, and also I didn't use the opportunity to do it. So on March 19, 2019, we successfully have this event, and we was just do a lot on tracking Mars and some other constellation, and it's a little bit hard when the full moon is out, but we're still able to achieve and track a lot of fun thing on the sky. The stargazing night flyers. So the original plan was do it on March 16 in the Crazy Bread parking lot, and I did a lot of communication, precision of telescope, and calibrate the site correctly. Really engaging just to have fun facts and just really interesting facts with context and relating to students. And then I made a total of 6 posters and placed them around the school. You can find it downstairs, and also if you're a panel, you can find it in the binders too. I just want to go through some of them. The diamond range, the triple star system, the cold wedding, the high increasing, and the quiet place. There's also one more, the space tiers. For my PFL, this was also one of the toughest parts to plan and just have it done, because my original plan was to doing kind of like a debate about just extraterrestrial life. But after doing research and after understanding what PFL is about, I have a lot of meeting with Bob. And to my PFL, the first part is Introduction to Space Study, Cosmology, and Astrophysics. So so on the first part, I talked about the timeline of the universe, which is what the physics of the Big Bang at the beginning, our current state, the current state of the universe, and what would happen in the future, what would be the fate, what could be the end of our universe. I also talked about the history of how a lot of scientists have been trying to learn it from ancient time, from Aristarchus, Nicholas Copernicus, to Newton with his gravity, to Einstein with his general theory of relativity, and nowadays Stephen Hawking. So these are the pictures from the first part. I tried to do a little easy simulation of I used the balloon to explain the current state of our universe. When you blow the balloon, the dots, if you run 2 dots in the balloon, the dots will go away, just like how you see the sky and the star right now is running away from us. So that determined that our universe is expanding. And I also use the blanket, that grid pattern blanket of a space-time model, try to explain how an object will change the space. The space-time will be relative when the object is dropped on the blanket. For a second part, game station, I didn't want it just to be a speech, the whole speech in the PFL, so I want students to have a lot more experience with space and just fun facts of it. So there's 5 stations: the moon, the solar system, the spaceship, the Earth, and the sun. So for the moon, I did like a 8-question quiz, but it's not like for poise or anything. I have 8 questions on about the knowledge of the moon, our moon, the moon landing, and other planets' moon, like the Mars moon. And we just want them to have the discussion about who was on the Apollo 11 mission, and give them some question based on the moon landing. The second part is the solar system. I give them the distance of each planet in our solar system, how far is it from the sun, and then to have each group try to create a model of stepping like from the same scale with the actual universe by stepping on in the cafe. The spaceship. I give each group 12 items of what will be the most beneficial things to bring on the spaceship to the International Space Station. And it was a really cool experience for a lot of people because, for example, I give them the dumbbell, and then they have to think about there's no weight and there's no gravity, so a dumbbell would be just light as a paper. The Earth. So I try to make groups make fans that represent the layers of our Earth, just to understand the basic layers and how the Earth is shaped. So these are the products with the last one is creating a prism. So each group will try to create a prism, a rainbow, through by using a piece of cardboard, a glass of water, and a piece of paper. So sometimes the sun was blocked by a cloud, and then some students came up with the idea of the flashlight, which will do the same work with the sun. For the last part, I did the faith and science discussion. I gave them a list of questions focusing on the relationship of science and Christianity, how new scientific discovery connect and disconnect to some of the information in the Bible. I thought the PFL was very interesting. It was very interesting to see an atheist view of the world in the video. I thought it was interesting how the narrator on the origin of the universe listed the numerous theories on what caused the Big Bang, but did not mention God. I thought it was a perfect demonstration of that many atheists have an anti-God bias, and they refuse to consider a supernatural option. Zachary Sackler, class of 2019. And I thought that the games were really fun, especially the one in the cafe. I learned a lot of different things about space, like how to make a rainbow using water in a cup. I believe that science strengthened my faith. It shows God design in so many ways. I believe that God created the earth in 7 days, so I didn't necessarily agree with the parts about the Big Bang Theory. But other than that, I had a lot of fun and learned a lot too. Rebecca Barker, class of 2022. So for one of my last bubbles, the fake news and debate, I taught three of rhetoric and debate classes on February 14, February 16, and February 26. There were 2 parts of my class. The first part was to read an article on Oumuamua, which is an object outside of the solar system, which was the first one we can observe, and how a lot of scientists said that could be an alien spaceship, and try to have students get the errors of how that article went. And the second part, I showed them a video of a conspiracy theory on the moon landing, and having a debate when this class split in a good scale of 12 and 8, or 12 people believe it was true, and 8 people kind of question or believe it didn't happen. So the Van Allen belt, which was some kind of arguments against the moon landing, which that Van Allen belt wouldn't hurt the spaceship that much. And also some students firing some video on the flag move on the moon, which without being touched or without getting interacted or anything. Personal application. How does it affect my faith, apologetics, and how it changed my life? It definitely affects a lot on my faith. I think there's a lot of potential in an intelligent creator. Like, I definitely believe it more than what I did before the project. But I still think it needs a long way to go. Apologetics. I learned about the argument that apologists have for Christian view of space and how the universe began, and it definitely will change my life. I talked with my mentor, and he told a story of a guy named Alan Sandage who took 35 years to learn the Bible to actually accept Christ. That was really inspirational. How did the universe begin essay? In this essay, I explained 4 ways the universe may have begun. And it was really, I took a lot of time on this because it was something I was interested in. And it was really cool to learn about how scientists explain different ways of the Big Bang. The first model is called the self-created universe, which you can see on there. The universe kind of branched like a tree and then expanded into trunks. These trunks are called closed time-like curve, which will again branches out and make different universe. The conformal circular cosmology, which say after each there's a multiple Big Bangs that created another Big Bang, which this process will going forever and then start from a singularity. The no-boundary proposal by Stephen Hawking was a combination of quantum physics and general theory of relativity, which Stephen Hawking was the first one to actually combine those two and try to predict multiple history of the universe. And the last one, I talk about intelligent creator, how Genesis actually predicted the Big Bang, predicted the beginning way before Einstein came up with his general theory of relativity, which he didn't like it of the idea of the beginning. My mentor, Daniel Ray, he agreed to become my mentor after an interview, and he was just really inspirational and really fit with this project. He also gave a lot of resources for my discussion question on the PFL, some apps for the stargazing night. Learning stretch. Definitely need to improve, still keep improving my English with my grammar and my resent right now, and a lot of grammar problem. Communication, I need to communicate more professionally, and just need to be more careful with my wording. Procrastination, I definitely procrastinate a lot on my project, and it led to pressure, how to deal with pressure and those kind. And lastly is the making decision, which was part that causes the procrastination, and I really need to understand how to actually do it, not just think about it the whole time. I want to say thank you to my parents, both my biological parents and the cause, my advisor Robbie Crash, my mentor Daniel Ray, my senior classmate, Grace Rep students and staff, and everyone else has supported me, my family, my sister, my cousin, and thank you.
So, Khoa, you pulled it off. You got it all together, right? Just a couple of things. You had the opportunity to. You look really nice, by the way.
Thank you.
You had the opportunity to teach in my class. Tell me a little bit more about what you did to prepare for that class. You did a couple different things. You taught a lesson about the big rock. I can't say the name. Amamamo or whatever. That was outside of the solar system, and you also prepared for the debates. Tell me a little bit more about how and why you did that.
So for the article, this is randomly, I found it. I was searching about Omomo because I watched a video on what Omomo was, and I found this really interesting text that said this could be an alien spaceship. But when I read the article, there was a lot of just faults and errors that I found like this statement cannot work. And for the moon landing, I watched a lot of resources. I watched the Apollo 11, which was related to that moon landing, and I do a lot of research on what the other side arguments was, trying to understand what they're saying and understand did it really happen, and which is the process of learning what the fake news or what the news want us to know.
Right. And you couldn't afford to procrastinate on that, right? Because I needed to have a lesson plan to know what you were doing, right? So I think you learned a little bit there about, I had to staff you a little bit about, I need to know, because we have to take up 80 minutes, and we ended up, going into another class. But I can tell you, I learned more about the moon landing in those two classes than I learned in my first 48 years of living. So it was good, and I think we had an engaging debate, and so I think you did a good job. But again, just challenging you with the procrastination thing, I was taught once early in my teaching career, either plan the activity or be the activity. So that's a little advice I'll pass on to you. If you don't plan it, you have to come up with something to be the activity. The other question I have for you is I am interested in a little bit more about the purpose and a little bit more of what the content was on your posters. I saw those hanging around school and I was reading them. But what were you intending to do by putting those up? And I wish you would have spent a little bit of time kind of explaining a little bit what was on some of those, because I didn't get to read all of it up there.
So when I think about those posters, I would say that a lot of people would think outer space would be something too far-fetched, something too high, and then I want to relate it to everyday's life, and then give them some interesting facts, just how we're gonna cry differently on space, and how. That's what I was aiming for. I want to give just some really fun knowledge, but at the same time, try to relate to them and saying that space is not that far-fetched. It's not that.
Good. And my last question, you came in and did the debate in the rhetoric and debate class. And you talked at the end with the students on the last day, and you talked about appreciating having the opportunity to ask hard questions and discuss those kinds of things and those kinds of issues here. And one of the questions that we ask students when they come here is, are you willing, or would you be willing to grow in your faith? And I don't know if you remember, but that day as you ended up your talk to the students, you started to get a little emotional. Do you remember what you were feeling then? And I want you to tell me how you feel like this helped you grow in your faith.
I feel like this whole learning, this whole experience might be a start of something about faith, and was just something really new to me when I came to America. I really hope that this is something, it's a start to maybe the way to God, just like how the stories that my mentor told me about. And I think the moon landing, even though not really related, but it's talk about fake news and questions. And I just think I will keep asking questions until I found it for myself.
All right, Khoa, I have a couple of positive things to say to you. First of all, I think that your professional contacts were really good. It was cool that you got to talk to Chris Hadfield with the interview. That was a really neat thing that you got to do as a part of this project. It sounds like your mentor was also very helpful and a great person for you to get to know. And I'm really glad that you did a project on something that will help you, that you got a lot of knowledge from, and that it's a topic that you're very interested in. Now, I am in senior legacy with the students all of the time, so I think that we did have our struggles throughout the year, for sure. And I think that one of those would be just communicating, okay? Because I don't know. I don't know if you have anything to say about that. A lot of times I felt like I was trying to tell you things and I wasn't getting a lot back throughout the year until just kind of recently. I don't know. What do you think?
So it was part of the learning strategy too. It was the making decision.
Uh-huh.
I have a lot of ideas, and it was just ideas just stay as idea for a long time. And I tried to talk with Robbie about that, and he was keep pushing me through. And I didn't really talk about my project with you until recently.
Yeah.
So I think that's one other reason too.
Yeah. So that was very, I would have loved to have helped you and heard more about your project, and you've gotten things done before just recently, So I hope that was something that you learned from doing the project. So I felt like sometimes I was telling you this is a way you could achieve this goal, and you just wouldn't do it. But then you did do those things. It's just that you did it very recently, like I said. So do you know what I mean? Like I would say, well, here's a way you could make a poster, and you wouldn't. But then you did make the posters eventually. It's just that it was recently that you did it. I mean, can you speak to that a little bit?
So this is me have to learn about dealing with this. When I start my project, I did my research, and when I think about my project way back in like September, I was just thinking this would be the start. I was just doing research for like this whole year. I did the planetarium field trip last semester, but
That's
I
true,
really wish that I did maybe the stargazing night earlier, so I can have time to maybe have more. Or it was just something that when I think about it, I think it should be way on February, March. That's what I think way back.
Okay, so you would, if you had to do over, you would definitely start things earlier.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
agree.
Because I really felt like when I was working with you at the last little bit here, once you did things, I think you kind of realized it wasn't as bad as you thought. I think for you, kind of making that decision and getting started was a challenge. And then once you were working, you did it. So I hope that that's something you can learn from doing this project. The PFL, I do think, really stretched you in organization and in being in charge of something. What do you think about the PFL?
I didn't. That was one of the toughest part because we were talking over and over, and meeting with Bob, meeting with Robbie, and then wasn't sure what we were gonna do. So it was kind of stressful. But then I started realizing I have to do it. Then I was just wanting to make something fun and engaging, and I didn't really think I would pull it off, but finally I did it, and it was a good experience. It was so good for me to learn how to organize things.
Okay. Yeah, I do think it was a real stretch for you to organize something like that for all of the students. So I think that you did pull it off. And yeah, I just think the timeline, it would have been a stronger project if you would have started working on some of your big goals sooner and communicated more with people who could help you out. That's my thing. But I do want to commend you for keeping an open mind on your faith. That's really awesome to hear that was also a result of this project.
Yeah.
So, yeah, lots of good things here for you to learn, and thanks for keeping an open mind on your faith. Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, Khoa.
Sure.
This will be better in the truck ride, a little bit. I'm sitting in for Robbie, so I haven't worked with you all along as your advisor. I got involved late, like I did with Jung. I'm curious about your mentor. That was interesting to me. I always like it when there's mentors that I don't know. I like that, and it sounds like you had some interesting interactions with him. How many times did you talk with him or meet with him?
I talked with him, interview to two meeting, and then a lot of emails. He really sent me a lot of emails about this resources, that resources, and I found my mentor really late because there was no one that in the school or related to the school that actually was an expert on knowing about this topic. So it took a while to find him, but we met I think once or twice, and then he just sent me a lot of resources, and that's how really, really helpful.
That was good. I think you had a great project here. I'm very interested in this type of thing. I would love to see you really put the time into it. And I don't know, I guess what I'm curious about, because it comes down to time, everything, even that coming, like, I found my mentor late, which I think, it sounds like he's a great mentor. I'd just like to see us get there sooner. So, do you feel, procrastination is a big deal here.
Yeah, yes. But
even with your PFL, like, I remember talking to all the seniors back in, like, September about setting up a PFL, and it took you, actually, we had to have a PFL Tuesday, which we've never had because you were the last one to get me, and by that time, all the dates were taken. So I guess what I'd really be curious to know, because everything I kind of wrote down here relates to procrastination. Do you think you learned your lesson on procrastination?
I would say yes, but I learn it all the time with just homework and just everything. I really think that my project worked a lot better if I do it earlier, but at the same time, I also think that I would do the work. I would do the work better if I do it late. For some reason, I think when I'm under pressure, I just works better. But I still think it would be a whole lot better than just being late. And I really hope that going to college and everything, procrastination will be less of a problem than it is now.
I would disagree with you because I don't think this is a kind of project you can just procrastinate to the end and do it better. Like, I think if you would have worked on this all along, it could have been great. And so I think you really missed it there, and that's why I'd really like you to learn that lesson moving forward. Like, I hope that you have learned from this experience, because we had a discussion from the Call's house to hear about 10 days ago in the truck. Discussion is probably the wrong word. But, so I won't go into that again today. But I really would want you, what I personally would want you to take from this year is that you can't procrastinate when it comes to big things, that you're not going to work better under pressure, because this could have been great. It really could have if you would have. I know I personally was challenged you just on, hey, let's figure out a PFL, let's figure out a PFL. And so I heard you say Robbie was always challenging you and pushing you to do things. I'd like to see you respond. Moving forward, I'd like you to say, wow, that was uncomfortable. I didn't like it. I didn't like the last couple days. And moving forward, when somebody kind of challenged me to do something that's an authority, I should listen to them. So I also saw Jung challenging you personally when we were on the international trip. Like, I watched him multiple times wake you up in the van and say, Khoa, you need to do this. Khoa, and he was helping you, and you just kind of rejected that. So I'd really like to get that. Did what you change about the origin of the universe, did what you believe about the origin of the universe change as you worked on this project?
I think the arguments of intelligent creator actually rise higher in like the potential, but I still think it will still be a mystery to mankind for a long time because it's just something really hard. It's just something these things you have to imagine, have to do philosophical work. It will be. I want to learn this more and try to figure it out, but it's still something that I don't have. I don't know what I think that I really love this topic, and I really think that should study this more and more moving forward. And I think that I really learned I have to make decision. I have to just take the decision down and do the work instead of thinking about it, thinking it will take just a long time. And then, yeah.
All right.
How's it going?
Good.
Well, let's see how's it going. This is a really interesting situation here because I think that I have a unique perspective in being outside the loop. Okay, so my task is to see if the bubbles are done, the objectives are done. And when we go through the research, you did your research. And in fact, your timeline is pretty strong regarding the interviews you did. They were done throughout the year. They started in September. So you started that early on, which is a good thing. Just as a presentation point, you have to have that picture in of Mike Miller. You got to try to get a picture in there because if it's blank, it just looks like it looks like it. We got to find a picture of him somehow.
I try.
So, who is Daniel Ray again? He's your mentor, but he wrote a book.
He co-authoring a book on.
Is he a Christian?
Yes, he is. So the book is just he trying to make the universe more interesting and put his Christian viewpoint in the book. And it's coming, but yeah, it's coming out in like June or July.
Well, I like it that you have a mentor that you've developed there, and a good one. I mean, I think your professional contacts are as strong as most any project we've seen, so that's really good. It doesn't sound like you hesitate to reach out and develop professional contacts, which is a really good skill. It can be, you have an interesting situation because the skills that you pulled off here are very valuable. Being able to call somebody, establish a mentor gets you way further. That's a very high return on your investment for a project because they can help you, and they did. The fun facts posters, what did you design them or did you find them?
I find the facts, like the information, but I added the context. The context was mine, and then
Who did the graphics?
The graphics was from a template online, but I put my pictures in there and changed
really?
it a lot, so it's
Well, they look nice, didn't they?
it's different. It's a lot different
They look
than the
really
template.
good, right? Well, they look nice to me. And when did they go up?
I posted them in the starting in the middle of March.
Okay. What was I reading here? It says here in your thing, there's a problem with you go through, Apologetics explained how special our Earth is, that God blessed it with life. These are really persuasive arguments from apologists, but there's a problem with apologetics. It is not in the arguments they make, but in the concept of it. Apologists try to defend an answer, which I think is not the most ideal way to solve problems. For example, Albert Einstein tried to defend his beliefs about a static universe, but failed to prove it simply because it is not true. I think the best way to answer a question is by trying to step for an apologetic. Obviously, it happened in the past, so they're trying to, there isn't likely to be, well, can you explain what you're saying there?
So my view on this was, I know the Bible was a historical book that talked, but since I don't not 100% don't believe in God maybe yet, but so he was the one that say and talked about the stuff, and apologists try to defend his. This is the concept. Try to defend his like his words, his speech, and that is the truth, which I think it makes sense, but it wouldn't be the most ideal way to like when you solve a math problem. You wouldn't say you wouldn't look at the answer sheet and you say this is the answer. I would try to do this. The best way to do it is to explain it, is to try and reveal it through doing step by step. You can get it wrong, but you will learn from it, and it will go a different way.
So you're saying what you want, ideally there'd be empirical evidence, statistics, and math that would show you how the universe began.
Yes, but yeah, right now.
And nobody's been able to do that yet, right? And from a Christian perspective, that's probably always going to be hard to do, right?
Yes.
So, Alan Sandage was the guy that spent 35 years reading that, was it 35 or 25 years?
Yeah.
He came to Christ as a scientist, going through that process. Is that what happened?
Yeah, so this was just a story that I heard from my mentor. He said that the guy didn't believe in religion or anything at all. And he tried to learn this Bible for years and years. And also in that project, my mentor also mentioned that you won't have all the answers. There's always require a little bit or a lot of faith to become a Christian, to accept Christ. So that's what Alan Sandage, I think, did.
And how did Daniel Ray do? Did he try to evangelize you? Did he just give you books? What was your relationship with him like?
He was really thorough and really understand the project, understand the topic. And then he was trying to give me evidences and saying, I'm seeing you becoming a Christian, and just keeping in touch. And he was really close and really engaging with his points, with his arguments, with his stories, and just always try to ask me how is God in your life, how God means in your life.
So here's what I take from this. Sometimes, there's a saying that sometimes you don't want to know how the sausage is made, right? That means you can really enjoy sausage and hot dogs, but if you saw how it was made, you'd never eat it again, right? So I sat through a lot of these meetings. They were somewhat frustrating at times because I didn't think you were taking it very seriously. However, the project is about getting things done and getting it done, right? And in my opinion, you got it done. Now, what makes great projects is getting them done in a reasonable time, on the strength of timeline. What makes sort of legendary projects is working on them the whole time and letting the project start to, what happens is kind of like compound interest. You invest early and the project starts to get a life of its own and momentum, right? We're going to see that later on this afternoon with the Twitter account of here in Apologetics, and how if they do it at the last minute, they don't have any followers. If they do it early, followers start to come because of the work they did earlier. And the reason I say that is because I am like you. I failed my college senior project. I tried to do it at the last minute. I worked on it at the last week, And when I got there and tried to defend it, I failed it. And it was a very low point. Then I went back and found something I had done the wrong project, one that I wasn't that interested in. Then I found another project that I loved, and I just nailed it, right? So this is why senior projects are fairly important to me. I didn't have an advisor that helped me. The advisor that I had in college didn't really like me because I acted like you, in the sense of I procrastinated all the time, and he didn't understand how my personality worked. I don't know that you will ever be a person that has a strong strength of timeline, because I think you're a little bit like me in that it is very difficult. Most of the time when I'm coming to chapel, I am writing notes on the way here, and I try to work on it early, and it just doesn't come to me. What that does is there is a personality type that's like that. It's not very fun because what happens is you never get the wind behind your back because you don't get to ruminate on it very often. So what happens is you present and you think, I could have done better at this and better at that. And so what I've started to do with my speeches, I've started to transcribe them, and I go and look at it, and the next time I do it, I'm like, I can do this a lot better and faster and more efficient. So I think what you have here is a project that the people that saw it unfold say, well, it unfolded at the last minute. But when I look at it, you got the project done, and the elements of the project, I mean, the planetarium trip was done on December 6th, and the stargazing thing was a difficult one because the nights kept changing. You wrote the papers. Ernie said that the fake news thing went well in class, right? There was another thing I wasn't at. And Jared, what was it you weren't at either? The PFL. And how did that go? So here's my takeaway on this. You are surrounded by people that work for schools that are by nature strong strength of timeline people. They're teachers. They have to be. They have work to do every day. I could never be a teacher because I would never get it done. The school is led by a person who is not like that, which has its advantages and disadvantages, as you know by the time I got here at 8:14 this morning. Only because I hit every traffic light green, or else I would have been late. Okay, so I hate that about myself, but I just seem to have a hard time fixing that. It is a character flaw, and because I do that, I'm not as effective at things. However, it is also a character trait that is hard to, that has its advantages. I'm not sure what they are, but all that to say this. I think you're a very creative person in the end. And attaching science and creativity is a very unique trait and a very unique combination, because you got this done. And the things in here were very creative. They were creatively thought through. So the bottom line is this. I think that this is a good project. You got it done. It looks to me, from the outside, which all I can guess, is that you got the objectives done and you did them well. Could they have been done better if you had done them earlier? Yes. Would they have more credibility? Yes, they would have. Would it have taken you a lot more time? No. And that's the problem with procrastination, is that what it does is it steals all the joy and the easy pickings. In other words, things that you do, if you do them way ahead of time, you think, oh, you see something and you're like, I can add this and this and this, and it doesn't take much extra effort, right? The posters are up longer, so people see them more, right? It wouldn't take you any more work to get the posters done early and put them up, but they would have been up longer and they'd have gotten much more, you see what I'm saying?
Mm. Yeah.
So what happens is you can get things done, you can do them well, but it takes a little bit of joy away from you and a little bit of the effectiveness away from us when they're done at the last minute.
Okay.
And that's what I'd like you to learn through the project. I'm not sure you have, but I'd like you to learn it and to think through it, because you will work really hard. What I've learned is that you get You do things at the last minute, but you get them done. You get your work done, you get your schoolwork done, and you know that, and that's kind of how I am. It can be a frustrating life, though, when you don't get all the benefit of it because you don't do it early. You don't get to kind of ruminate. And it's very stressful, right?
Yes.
It's very stressful.
Yeah, it's really uncomfortable.
So you added a lot of stress to your life this year and did the exact same amount of work as if you'd done it ahead of time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's likely that because of your personality, you'll live a life that's very stressful like I do, but that you'll get a lot done. And part of that is ultimately surrounding yourself with a team of people that will be able to encourage you and help you out. And sometimes that's easier to do in the professional world, oddly enough, than it is to do in high school. In high school, if people help you out, it's called cheating, if they help you out a lot. In business, it's sometimes called an assistant and a staff. And so the educators here, you might not like what I'm saying, but it is a personality type, an entrepreneurial personality type. All that to say is this. You got your project done. What I'd like you to learn from it is that you would have had more joy in it. It would have been more effective and more efficient if you'd done it early and would have alleviated a lot of stress. Does that make sense?
Yes. I enjoy the project, but then when I do the research, but that joy went too far, and then the activities and everything just really makes me uncomfortable at the end. Just try to put this thing on that day, and I really think if I did early, I would have time to do something else with this project. Then,
Did you think about things when you were doing them and think, oh, I could have done this, I could have added this little thing here?
It was also one of the problems while making decisions. When I think about these things, I would thought a lot on it, and then I was like, let's make it the next day. I just keep thinking the next day and just keep putting it.
Well,
And I would enjoy it more.
right. And that's what I want you to learn from this, is that you have a lot of skills. This is a really creative project, and there's a lot of creative things done. It's just not going to have usually the impact is what you put in it. And so if that's what you learned out of this project, I think that'd be really good, because you could have had a lot less stress, a lot less people kind of on you if you do it early. But there was a lot of stuff that was, some of the hard stuff was done early. We've had projects that have been done later than this, particularly strength between professional contexts and stuff. A lot of the things that you did well in this project were really important. That's the contacts, and you did some stuff early, but leaving it to go to the last minute is stressful, not as effective, and not as efficient. And that's kind of where I'll leave that. I will say one more thing, and that is that it is usually, I would say, among scientists, they don't come to Christ, I'm going to guess, because of creation a lot of times, because there is going to probably always be a matter of faith there, because we weren't there. And there's probably not going to be science and math that give you empirical evidence. I'm hoping that, I love that you've shifted and that you're open to this. I love it that you're able to tell us that and not just come to us and say, oh, now I love God because of this, because that would be, in this case, you're not right there yet. But I believe that I know that God is real, and I think he is showing up along the path here. I'm not sure it'll be through science or creation. I think you might have to look at it for him through relationships and through the things he does in your life. And it might not come through science, but I'm confident that he'll pop up in a way that's going to be hard to not acknowledge. So thanks, Khoa. I appreciate your work.
Thank you.
And I'm going to let Leah and Rob, who, I want to say something else. This is really hard for international students. And I really appreciate the international students, because American students, go try to do a project like this in Chinese or Vietnamese or whatever, and have a Chinese me bearing down on you. Think about it. So think about that when you're thinking about the international students projects. But they couldn't have had really too much better of people pushing them, particularly, I'm sure, Leah and Rob. But let's just say something about Khoa.
Okay, first of all, Khoa is our first international student, and we couldn't have had a better one. We love you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Love you too.
And he's like, really? We also eat a lot more rice now. But no, really, one of the things I just want to say to you, and I want everybody else to hear, is how much I have appreciated that you come from a country that is really not free like we have here. And I think that it affects everything in us. It affects how we think and how we process and how we feel comfortable being excited to move on and being able to make a decision without fear, you know, and just with the ability to make the decision, let it be wrong and fail or whatever, and then get up and go again, because I feel like you might come from a culture where that's not as acceptable. So I just want to give you that. And I'm really proud of how you've done. And it is hard. It is hard to be an international student. And it's hard to be a parent of an international student where you're trying to like figure out what motivates. I've got 16 years to figure out that one over there and still don't know, you know, how to motivate him, right? You know, but you know what I mean? So, yeah, just really proud of you.
Good job, Khoa. When Bob asked you if procrastination led to more stress, I almost said yes from back here. You worked hard on this project, especially the last 2 weeks. But we did see a lot of work, you know, throughout the year, you know, and just trying to pull it all together, you know, at the end was difficult. But I think what you've done, maybe inadvertently, was just expose yourself to evidences in the universe that point to a creator. You didn't touch much on, you know, the scientifics, you know, of how fine-tuned, you know, the universe is for human life, you know, gravity and our distance from the sun and from the moon and all these coefficients of acceleration and deceleration, whatever it is in physics that makes it possible for human life to exist could not have happened by chance. Could not have happened by chance. And this is coming from somebody who's a physician with a scientific background. I mean, the more I look and the more I look and the more I look, the evidence, to borrow a phrase from Josh McDowell, the evidence demands a verdict. We can't recreate the origin of the universe in a scientific lab. We can't do it. I can't prove scientifically that George Washington was the first president of the United States. I cannot recreate that in a lab. That's all based on evidence. And what you've done is revealed to yourself, you know, just an insurmountable avalanche of evidence that points to a creator. Just look at some of the pictures from the book, you know, the Hubble telescope is just amazing. It's just amazing. So I want to encourage you to keep looking, you know, at the evidence and not necessarily look for proof, but it's the evidence that really will lead the way for you in this area. We're proud of you.
Thank you.
All right, good job, Khoa. They're here to see you too, right? So, you want to say anything?
Muốn nói gì không? Oh my
I don't
gosh.
really speak English to him, not often, but I'll do this once.
Gosh.
Yeah, I'm really proud of you, and I'm glad that you were able to find something that you're really passionate about and that you can apply that to your later in life. And
Cảm ơn.
All right, and if Khoa's mom and dad are watching,
Yeah, hopefully.
congratulations to you. So we have that up and running, and he's a good student, good kid, got into a good college, so rock on. All right. Thank you. Jung, I forgot, I didn't start with Jung, and I'm going to have Pete say something about Jung's project because I failed to do that.
Jung, stand up, buddy. Well, congratulations, you didn't burn our house down, bro. No, listen, when Jung came over 2 years ago to kind of meet us to meet you, I knew right away, I like you, okay? There's a likability persona people carry. We talk about this in ministry. You can't create it. You can just be aware of it. It's called likability. You have that, okay? And the more you learn to communicate, it'll shine in your presentation, right? In other words, Neil Anderson, as I was thinking about your presentation, Ellen and I were going, he's a scientist. But I want to talk to the scientist inside you. The more you let you come out, right? Without the fear, without the project. Because you have that likability that is coming out more and more. Very proud of you, how you've worked. Ellen and I were like, we could sit in his class. He's, you know what I mean? You have that. Now, again, you'll learn how to communicate, and you did very well. But I want that more for you. I can see it. And we've enjoyed just watching you for 2 years. You've become like a son to me. You know, I said to you the other day, I said, Chung, I'm going to miss you, bud. I'm going to miss you. And we want to follow you, right? We want to see where God takes you. And so you guys, you know, you juniors, listen up. It's a lot of work to do this. And you seniors know that now. I watched this kid work hard. Now, Jake, you and I will talk more later. Like, Dad, you didn't say that just to me, man. But when it's your own son, it's very emotional, right? That's why I can only say what the father would say, you know. And so as a surrogate father, I love you. You're his son. And I'm very pleased with you. Good job, buddy.
Yeah.